home prices or home sales of new homes are still going. Like builders are like, oh, hey, we'll come and supply. We'll solve some of this supply issue, and they're coming to the table because I saw some interesting stats here about how they make their determination of whether they should be building or not.
Yeah.
So for this, I feel like builders have the upper hand because they hold, the margin of how much they could actually, let the house go down for, how much they could take a profit up.
Correct.
And it just seems that whenever they need to make it happen, they're like, hey, well, there's $30,000 to buy down your rate, pay down some debt. And I'm sure, Lonesome Mike can chime in on this. Mike, how much did your client for your new build get in credits to be able to, make this loan work?
A whole $35,000, which is kind of
so it just seems like, with the builders, if it makes sense for them, they're like, well, I could lose $30,000, still make enough in my margin. Let us get in. Let's move some houses.
Yeah.
So
Can you repeat that again?
Lonesome Mike?
Lonesome Mike.
It was $35,000 in seller credits.
So that's an indication to me of a couple of things. Number one, there's enough margin in that. Number two, it's worth them doing to move a house. And also, it sets a precedent that probably the next buyer can get a deal like that too.
If you guys think about the household income, $111,000.
Sure.
Getting 35. They just gave over 0.25% of annual income in an incentive.
Right.
Guys, where are we at? Where are we going with this? Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think builders they have, I don't say they have an upper hand, but they get to play their hand.
Yeah, exactly. And some of the things that I wrote here are some of the reasons why home builders do have an upper hand is they have incentives, to provide their credits for the buyers.
Yeah.
They'll do a 3-1 buy down, a 2-1 buy down to buy down the rate. They offer solar, and believe it or not, solar actually saves you money. I have it on my property. It saved me money. When I was summertime, my bill would be like $850, $900. And with solar now, hey, I'm at a whopping $350, $400, right?
Fixed.
Yeah,
Wow.
which is not bad in comparison.
Yeah.
So with these new builders offering those incentives, providing solar or solar options and included into your home purchase, it actually makes some sense because they're going to save money on a monthly bill, by getting solar through the builder.
Yeah.
So, and then they have the closing cost credits, right? Not only do they have that, they have a closing cost credit. And basically, builders can do whatever they need to do in order to make a deal happen. Whereas a homeowner, a lot of times they don't have that.
Well, they won't have that huge margin where it's like the seller needs to make some sort of money back, and the builder's like, well, I could lose $30,000 and still profit enough for me to, make my margins.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of an advantageous position because they really get to determine, they kind of can move the needle towards or away from the incentives to determine where our buyer's at, kind of like the meeting of the minds, where do we both agree there's a deal for us? The buyer goes, oh, that's a sweet deal. The seller goes, yeah, I'd agree it's a sweet deal too. Let's strike that deal and get it done. Yeah. So I think there's that, the part that struck me here was that most of the active units of supply in scale will have to come from the existing home sales market. So when we talk about inventory, builders are not going to completely solve the problem. Yeah. So we still don't, so although builders are showing up and they're providing some inventory relief, it will certainly not settle the entire problem of inventory because that heavily relies on existing sales too, and that's been pretty low.
And again, Andy, just to prove that point, as a builder, why would I want to try to solve this problem? I'm going to slow it down too.
Right.
Because then I have more market control, right? Yeah. Who has the inventory controls the market.
So check this out. One of the analysts for this article had put these numbers out and said when supply is 4.3 months and below, then it's an excellent market for builders. When supply is 4.4 to 6.4 months, it's just okay for builders. And they'll build as long as new sales are growing. And then when supply is over 6.5 months, the builders will pause construction. So it's kind of like a barometer for when we can know or not know that they're going to be bringing homes. And for them, again, it's this advantageous approach to what's profitable, what makes sense for business, despite things we talked about before, increased labor costs, increased supply costs, delays on getting material, all that kind of stuff that's impacted them too.
A barometer or a mafia?
I said barometer on purpose, but I'm glad you said mafia. That's fine.
They're controlling stuff. They can control it, which is great.
So this is what I thought was funny. When builders need to move product, I'm like, okay, I see what we're seeing here. Efficient sellers. Okay, I see.
And it's not like necessarily having a corner on the market necessarily, but this is probably I'm going to say it's advantageous because I keep saying that. But here's the other thing that's not in their favor is the cost. Because, again, you're talking about an affordability crunch where economically there maybe is a smaller pool of buyers now than there were maybe 6 months ago, 12 months ago.
Yeah.
But also prices are higher. They've recovered a little bit from their dip. But there's still more coming on the horizon, guys. So, they talked about there's 1.3 months of supply that are completed and ready for sale. There's 4.3 months of supply of homes that are still under construction, and 1.8 months of supply that haven't yet been started, but there's been permits already pulled for. So just as a combination of that, you have almost about 7.5 months of total new housing coming on board. So that, I think, is going to ultimately help keep prices stable.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you think about this, Lonesome Mike, since you have a client that's going through a new home build?
Well, to be completely honest, going back to what Andy said about how there's about a supply of almost 7.5 months. I was reading that if it's anywhere above 6.5 months, builders might actually pause construction. So I was thinking, inventory. I mean, it can't go lower.
Yeah.
I mean, unless people purchase them, but I don't see it going up either. Especially if they're already above that threshold. That would, lead us to believe they'd stop construction now.
Yeah.
And there it is, Lonesome Mike.
There you go.
With the right answers.
Nice.
All right, Lonesome Mike.
Okay.
Week 2, Lonesome
Prepared.
Mike.